Hello and welcome to the classroom. Today's letter of the day is the letter C. Can you say C? Do you have a letter C in your name? If your name has letter C, stand up. If your name has letter C, stand up. If your name has letter C, if your name has letter C, if your name has letter C, stand up. Well, C is for cabin. Do you know what a cabin is? A cabin is this little house that's made from wood. It's usually in a forest or maybe in the mountains. Let's take a look at a cabin. Whoa, look at that. Doesn't that look cozy? It's a little house made of wood, and this one is in the woods or in the forest. Long ago, they would chop trees, make them into logs, stack them into a cabin like this, add a fireplace so they could be warm inside, and that's how they lived long ago. Today, we can go on vacations and stay in cabins. Well, it is time for us to decorate our letter. We're going to make our letter look like wood, just like the cabin is made out of wood. So the first thing we're going to do is add some knot holes. So if you've ever seen wood, you've probably noticed there are some swirly things in the wood, and those are called knot holes. I'm also going to add some lines just here and there all over my letter C to make this look a little more like wood. And then I'm going to color the whole thing brown. If you don't want to worry about the swirls and the lines, if that seems too hard, just color your C brown like wood, and that will be just fine. This is uppercase C, and here's lowercase c. We'll just color that. Well, now that we've decorated our letter C and we can recognize this letter, what letter is it? C. We can recognize it, so next we're going to learn how to write it. To write letter C, you just curve around. I'll show you. Curve around. You can even curve your fingers around to make a letter C. Let's practice. We're going to start near the top and we're just going to curve around. Go up and touch the top line and all the way down to the bottom line. Curve around, upstairs and downstairs. This is uppercase letter C. Well, every letter has two, an uppercase and a lowercase. This is lowercase c. It looks the same. It's just smaller. So let's do it again. Just curve around. If you're using handwriting paper, then the lowercase c will belong downstairs. Curve around, just like that. Curve around, curve around. Well, I know you're doing such a great job. I'm going to give you a sticker for your handwriting paper. Here it is. We know what C looks like. We know how to write it. So next we're going to talk about the sound that C makes. Letter C makes this sound. K, k, k. You try. K, 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 k. All the letters have hand motions, and the hand motion for C is like this. Pretend that your fingers are scissors. K, k, k. What does letter C say? K, k, k. We're going to use that sound along with our vowels to blend, read, and match. Take a look at this. Can you help me sing the vowel song? A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. These are the vowels. Well, we're going to put letter C with each of these vowels. Let's blend the two sounds together, and then we'll put an ending sound, and we'll read a real word and match it to the picture that it belongs to. C-A is first. K-A, K-A, cat, 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 cat. Draw a line to the cat. Now, these two are a little bit different, so I'm going to wait until the end to do those. Let's come down to C-O. K-A, K-A, ka, cod, cod, cod. That's a type of fish. Draw a line to the fish. Next, C and U. K-uh, k-uh, cub, 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 cub. Draw a line to the bear cub. Now we're going back to these two that we skipped earlier. C before E thinks that it's a letter S. It pretends it's an S and makes the letter S sound. S. Now let's try to blend CE, but remember, we're going to use the S sound. S, E, S, E, Se, nt, scent, scent, scent. Let's draw a line to the coin. 1 cent. Now, C before I also thinks it's a letter S. It's pretending, and it makes that S sound. Y wants to have a turn too. It wants to pretend that it's a long E. E. Let's go back and try to read this word. I'll help you. S-I, sit, E. Sit, E. Sit, E. City. Draw a line to the city. Well, you did a great job with our letter time for today. And now it's time for math. For math today, we're going to be doing a snowy cabin village paper. If you have this paper too, then you'll want to cut out all of the numbers at the bottom. Just cut them all out because we're going to move them around and glue them to the correct spaces. If you don't have this paper, don't worry, you can share with me. Just point on your screen. We're going to look for number 1 first. Can you find number 1? Good job. Let's put it right here on the first cabin. We're going to find the numbers in order from 1 to 10. So what comes after 1? 2. Can you point to number 2? There it is. Number 2. 1, 2, 3. Let's find number 3. Here's number 3. 1, 2, 3. What's after 3? 4. Point to number 4. You got it. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you find 5? Here it is. Let's move it right here. After 5 comes number 6. Let's look for number 6. There it is. What's next? 7. Point to 7. And here it is. After 7 comes number 8. Good job. Next is number 9. And finally, number 10. We counted forward, but now let's count backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice job. Well, next we're going over to the science table. We're going to do a fun sink float activity. Well, here I have a bowl of water, and I want to tell you something about people who made cabins long ago. Long ago, they would chop down wood. They didn't have trucks and trailers and trains and things that we use today to haul wood. So what they would do is they would take the logs and they would put them in the river, and they would float the logs down the river to the spot where they were going to build the cabin. You see, they knew that wood floats. It doesn't matter if it's a big log, like from a big, long, tall tree, or if it's just little popsicle sticks. All wood floats. Well, we're going to do a little sink float activity. Well, here we are at the science table, ready to do our sink float activity. You can see the popsicle stick is floating. Floating means it's going to stay at the top. If something sinks, then it will go to the bottom. All right, let's try this rock. Do you think the rock will sink, or do you think it will float? All right, make your guess, and let's try it. Whoa, the rock sank right down to the bottom. What about this ping pong ball? Do you think it will sink or float? Let's find out. The ping pong ball floats. What about this toy car? Make your guess. Will it sink or float? Okay, here it goes. Whoa, it sank to the bottom. What about this crayon? Do you think it will sink or float? It sank. What about this marker? Do you think it will sink or float? Let's try it and see. It floats. The marker floats. What about this coin? Sink or float? Here goes. Oh, it sank. It's right on top of the car. What about this toy pumpkin? It's made of foam. Do you think it will sink or float? Let's see. It floats, and real pumpkins float too in the water. What about this toy train? Sink or float? Here it goes. Oh, it sank to the bottom. What about this pencil? Do you think it will sink or float? What's it made out of? Wood. Let's see. It floats because remember, wood floats, whether it's a big log used for making a cabin or a tiny popsicle stick. Last one. What do you think about this pirate? Will he sink or float? Well, let's see. Look, he's floating. The pirate is swimming in the water. Well, now it's time for art. Well, here we are at the art table, and we're going to build our own cabin. I'm going to use popsicle sticks, but if you don't have any popsicle sticks, you could cut out some pieces of paper, or you could even just draw your cabin. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put some glue right here in the middle at the bottom. And then we're going to start building our cabin like this. Just put one popsicle stick on top of the other. Okay. If you're drawing your cabin, just draw a square. And then you can draw or cut out a triangle for the roof and a rectangle for the door. There you have it. There's our art project for today. We built our own cabin. Well, here's the little cabin that I made. And now it's time for story time. For story time today, we're going to be reading a book called Henry Builds a Cabin. Henry Builds a Cabin by D.B. Johnson. One spring day, Henry decided to build a cabin. He borrowed an axe and cut down 12 trees. Henry cut the logs into square beams. He notched the bottom beams to fit into corner posts. The corner posts fit into ceiling beams, and the ceiling beams fit into roof beams. In April, his friend Emerson helped raise the beams. The work made him hungry. "Henry," he said, "your cabin looks too small to eat in." "It's bigger than it looks," said Henry, and he led his friend to a bean patch he had planted behind the cabin. "When it's finished, this will be my dining room." In May, Henry bought an old shed and took it apart. He nailed the boards on the floor, the roof, and the walls of his cabin. Henry was nailing the last board when his friend Alcott arrived. "Henry," he said, "your cabin looks too dark to read in." "It's brighter than it looks," said Henry, and he led his friend to a sunny spot beside the cabin. "When it's finished, this will be my library." In June, Henry put a door in front. Then he put 2 used windows in the side walls. He bought old shingles for the roof and walls. Henry was nailing the last shingle when Miss Lydia peeked in the window. "Henry," she said, "your cabin looks too small to dance in." "It's bigger than it looks," said Henry, and he led her to the front of the cabin where a path curved down to the pond. "When it's finished, this will be the ballroom with a grand stairway." On the 4th of July, Henry moved into his cabin. He ate beans in the dining room. He read in his library. And he danced down the grand stairway to the pond. When it started to rain, Henry ran back to his cabin. "It's bigger than it looks," he said. "This is just the room I wear when it's raining." The end. So his cabin was big enough to keep him dry when it rained. Well, I hope you've had some fun today with C is for cabin. Next, D is for drums. I'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.